to the ACC. Now, the ACC has been down. I remember when we had you on the show last summer previewing the ACC, Phil, and there was a lot of talk, especially from them, that they were going to be a lot stronger. There was even a couple of their SIDs or coaches, I forget, who were saying, hey, the SEC doesn't have anything on us. Remember that?
Yep.
Well, have they improved, or is it all talk? What's the story with the ACC this year?
It is a lot stronger conference this year. You know, last year what happened was anytime somebody took control of the conference, they'd lose the next week. It seemed like whenever an ACC team got ranked, boom, they lost. This year, if you look at the ACC, especially in the Coastal Division, there are 4 teams I feel capable of winning the Coastal, and they're all very good teams. You're looking at Virginia Tech, who last year was extremely inexperienced. And after they lost to Miami of Florida at one point by 3, it looked like their season was done. Then they rallied to beat Virginia. They beat Duke, won the ACC title game, and then won the Sugar Bowl as one of Frank Beamer's better coaching jobs. He only had 9 returning starters last year. This year he's got 16. I think if you look at their schedule, there's only 2 games that concern me. The opener with Alabama, but that is a Bud Foster defense, and he's one of those gambling, blitzing guys.
Where's that game at?
It's in Atlanta, and he's going to be taking on a young quarterback making his first start. I tell you what, a young quarterback making his first start against Bud Foster, look out. He'll get everything tossed at him. So that's a game VT could win. And remember last year, Alabama, not much was expected of Alabama. They used that win over Clemson in that opening game,
right,
and all of a sudden they went 12-0 on the year. So you never know. The only other game they're going to be an underdog this year is at Georgia Tech midseason. And they're capable of winning that. So I've got VT as my favorite there. Georgia Tech, I thought Paul Johnson did a great job last year. We're bringing in the option, and Georgia Tech ran the ball well. They've got Jonathan Dwyer at running back. I think Dwyer's going to lead the NCAA in rushing. A lot of talent. Last year they had 9 returning starters. This year they've got 17. So they're a much stronger team than they were last year. Teams will now know what to prepare for. They faced his offense. They've got a couple tough road games, but they're definitely in the mix. Now, how about Miami of Florida? You know, if you ever watch a team, I have 12 TVs in front of me at work, and up here in this upper left corner, I hardly ever watch that game that much. But if Miami of Florida is up there, their size and speed just jumps out at you. It's a very athletically talented team. Last year they were a freshman-sophomore group. This year they're a sophomore-junior group. They're dangerous. Now, their first 4 games are ridiculous. They open up at Florida State. They play Georgia Tech at home. They play at Virginia Tech. They play Oklahoma. The toughest 4 games.
Where do they have Oklahoma?
At home. And that could be an upset game right there because they do have the athletic talent to play with Oklahoma.
Especially if they lose a couple of those first 3 because they'll be very experienced. They'll be in an angry mood, too.
And it'll be October 3rd. It'll be the heat and humidity of Florida, which is an advantage.
So they've rebuilt down there, huh?
Yes, they have. They're very talented. Now,
how about North Carolina with Davis?
I've got them number 4 because they play the toughest schedule of the 4.
I'm glad. I can't stand Butch Day. I'm so glad. But he has done a good job recruiting.
He has. They've got good recruits. And last year, you know, if their quarterback doesn't get injured, North Carolina wins the ACC last year because Yates got injured against Virginia Tech, a game North Carolina was in control of. They're up by 10 in the 3rd quarter. Yates gets injured. Virginia Tech rallies and wins. Had North Carolina beaten Virginia Tech in that game, they would have won the ACC, and I feel would have beaten Boston College. So this year's North Carolina team is better than last year's, and if they have Yates around all year, they're dangerous. But of those 4 teams, they play the toughest schedule.
Now, let's go to the other division in the ACC.
In the Atlantic Division, last year Clemson was everybody's pick to win the ACC, including my own. And one thing I might have overlooked.
The Browns drafted the running back Davis.
Davis, yeah. They had Davis. In fact,
by the way, we found he is 5'11", 218. They came up earlier in the show. He's 5'11" and 218. How do you think he'll do in the pros, just to sidetrack you a little bit?
I think he'll do well. He's a good back. You know, Spiller's a little more speed back to the outside. Davis a little more power back. But he had the yards per carry last year. I think, 4.4 yards per carry. But he was banged up at times. But I think he's a good back.
Right. Okay, so Clemson last year.
Yeah, Clemson was everybody's pick last year. And the one thing I think everybody overlooked was possibly the offensive line being inexperienced. Plus, they had some injuries. And the ACC preseason media poll, the number 1 ACC offensive player of the year was their quarterback, Colin Harper. Number 2 was Davis, the running back. Number 3 was C.J. Spiller. I've never seen a team sweep the top 3 spots of the offensive preseason player of the year. That tells you how disappointing Clemson was last year. Now, the reason Clemson's undervalued this year, most people are picking up 3rd or 4th, is once again, they look at the quarterback, running back, receiver. So if you do that, they lose their quarterback, Colin Harper. They lose their top rusher, Davis. They lose their top receiver. So you say, well, they're going to struggle, and they disappointed me last year. A lot of writers throw them out. I look at Clemson, I see C.J. Spiller. Now, if you're looking for a running back that the NFL scouts tell me is the number one running back right now, if the draft was today, it'd be C.J. Spiller of Clemson because he's a dangerous receiver, runner, he's a complete package. Their quarterback last year, Cullen Harper, 13 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Not the season expected. Doesn't matter whether it's Willie Corn or Parker that wins the starting job this year. I think their quarterback's going to put up better stats. They've got decent receivers, and here's the strength of Clemson. They have my number 9 rated offensive line, number 9 rated defensive line. Now, if you win games at the line of scrimmage, you win a lot of football games. There's only 2 teams in the country that rank in my top 9, both offensive and defensive lines. One of them's Florida, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, and the other one is Clemson. So I think they're a sleeper pick. Everybody's got them 3rd or 4th, but this is year I think they win. And then battling them, I believe it's a 2-horse race this year over in this division. Florida State is talented. I'm a little concerned about the receiver position. They've lost some players. They've got to get good play out of their quarterback, but they do have a lot of talent on their team. Just a tough schedule. They play the 2nd toughest schedule in the country.
All the controversies, Bowden still prevails.
Did he get it? Did he get his wins?
I don't know, but I'm just saying
okay.
He's still,
Yes.
despite it all over the years, he's had so many, sides to being distractions, being sidetracked, and
right.
He's a gem of a man. So he's going to be tough this year, huh?
Yeah, I think Florida State's right up there.
How about BC?
Boston College, and here's the thing, I picked them in a tie for 3rd in the Atlantic. Since I wrote the magazine, their quarterback, Dominic Davis, who was the only experienced quarterback they had, booted off the team. Their linebacker, Mark Herzlich, who to me was the best linebacker in the ACC, tragically diagnosed with cancer. It doesn't look like he's going to play this year. You got to root for the guy. Hope everything works out well for him. But on the football field, I think he's a no-show this year. So they lost 2 key players since I wrote the magazine. They play a tough schedule. They unexpectedly lost their head coach in the offseason. Remember, he interviewed for the NFL, and they booted him out. So Spaziani's the new head coach. I think the rest of the Atlantic Division struggles. To me, it's a 2-horse race, Florida State, Clemson.